Hello, my name is Alex, and I have a lot to say about Willow the series, mainly that I absolutely loved it. I'm a person that got obsessed with She-Ra, The Owl House, and Arcane. Are you seeing a pattern? And so when I heard about this show, I immediately added it to my list, and it is officially a comfort show and one I will always wish I could watch again for the first time. Since I can remember, and especially after the release of Arcane, I've been incredibly interested in the behind the scenes and the storytelling of many movies and series. I've always been interested in how and why the characters interact with each other, the do and don'ts of storytelling, stuff like that. And when I watched Willow, I was at a point where I learned so much that I was able to look at the show from a different perspective. And even though I absolutely loved the show, there are some things that here and there that aren't the best and definitely make me cringe. I mean, it doesn't have a 5.5 out of 10 on IMDb for nothing. It was a New Year's resolution of mine to try out things outside of my comfort zone. And so today I thought it'd be fun to try to script and create a video like this of my own. So obviously this video is not going to be perfect. If you have any recommendations as to what I can do differently or ways to make the video more entertaining, I am open to constructive criticism. This also means that I may have absolutely no idea what I'm talking about. So whatever I say, do not take it seriously. These are my opinions and you are free to make your own. Also, I would just like to say that I did not grow up with the original movie. I watched the movie for the show, so I have no nostalgic factor that is influencing my point of views. I'm going to separate this video into 3 parts. First part is going to be a few things I liked, second part is going to be a few things I didn't like, and third part is just going to be a little speed run of things that I just wanted to mention, but I will not go into depth. And the timestamps are in the description, so if you want to hop around, you are free to do so. Obviously, there's going to be spoilers, so spoiler warning for the entire season, and let's get into it. First off, let's talk about a few things I enjoyed. I really enjoyed a lot of the characters. The majority of them were super interesting and funny, and it was awesome to see a lot of the characters from the original movie come back. The plot, while based off of an iffy topic I'll discuss later, is interesting and fun to follow. There is so much world building, which is fantastic. I love seeing more of the fantasy world, and the writers use this world building well to further develop the plot, the characters, and all the side quests. The fighting was good too. I am not a professional swordsman, so I cannot go into detail about whether or not the technicality of the fighting was good or not, but it was entertaining to watch and it did not feel extremely choreographed. And on top of that, the magic scenes and other fighting scenes were good too. The horseback riding was surprisingly pretty good. I myself am an equestrian, so I know how to ride horses, and movies and series are notorious for not teaching the actors how to ride properly, and it just ends up looking messy and like the characters have no idea what they're doing. But in Willow, they aren't yanking on the horses' mouths, and they also have their pinky tucked, which is something so many movies seem to miss. And also, I, of course, have to mention my favorite character, Kit.
But I'll still kick your ass.
Kit is the type of person that I want to be. I used to have the same haircut as hers, and I definitely am tempted to cut it again just to look like her. Kit's character was amazing, and while obnoxious at the beginning, she was one of the most interesting characters, and a lot of thought went into her character development. Unlike many of the other characters, she had an extremely emotional scene where it had such a strong impact to the point where I actually started crying. That was the only time I cried while watching the show, but I will talk about that later. I also loved how by the end she was able to accept Elora for who she was and didn't have that nagging feeling of jealousy toward her. Now they have that sister duo dynamic and it's perfect. Now let's get into some of the things that I did not like. First off, I feel like in the series, there were so many things they were trying to do and just missed it by an inch. They had so many opportunities to do so many things, but because of the lack of context, development, and time with the characters, the emotional scenes just fell flat and it was hard to enjoy them to their full extent. If you want me to go more into depth on all of these times the plot development fell flat, I'd be happy to make a video. While the plot was fun, it was based on something relatively stupid, at least for the audience. When Eric went in to go fight, I didn't even realize he was taken away. They really gave us no reason to like him besides that 1-minute conversation he had with Kit. So while the main objective of the series was sort of mediocre, everything in between was pretty good.
Wow.
I gotta be honest, I thought Jade was gonna be Elora. Like at the beginning of the series, they foreshadowed it a few times, and I feel like all of that was just so unnecessary. And I know it was like supposed to make you think it was Jade, and then it turned out to be Elora, but the series definitely got my hopes up. For around another episode after Elora was revealed, I held on to the hope that Willow had made a mistake and it was actually Jade. But anyways, when Dove, or Brunhilde, was revealed to be Elora, I was so disappointed. She was never shown as an interesting character or really had anything to her, and then boom, she is the main focus of the show. It was definitely unexpected, but because they tried to make it as unexpected as possible, they chose a character that had absolutely nothing going for them. Not to mention that the first few episodes, she's just so annoying. I know it's part of her character, but you can have interesting characters that are annoying and still be able to stand them. With Elora, it was hard to even listen to her. Another thing was about how infatuated she was with Eric, and that was her driving force for the entirety of the journey. All she wanted to do was return to the F-boy she rolled in grass with once or twice. And even the first episode, when Eric goes into fight and shows doubt in loving her, she catches on to the fact that he's doubting. But he is still her motivating factor for the majority of the show. And then when they finally get to Eric, all of a sudden Elora just doesn't want to talk to him. She's being super short and is trying to reject his affection. Like, weren't you dying to see him? And there's these random parts where she just gets an attitude and, again, is super short with some of the other characters.
In your resolve, manipulate you.
Oh, not really any of your concern, is it?
Not to mention, in one of the first episodes, Willow asked if Elora had ever felt anything when she was growing up that kind of signified to like a deeper power. And Elora said no. But then in the last episode, she talked about how she had this feeling when she was younger and didn't know what it meant. Such strong feelings, and you didn't think to tell Willow in that scene.
Would you respect, Your Majesty? Oh, no shit.
I love Jade so much. She's strong, caring, and a perfect match for Kit. But for the majority of the series, she's just there. She is either there to be Kit's love interest or to be another person in a fight. And the two times where her character actually went through stuff, they were just terrible. The first time was when she had to kill Valentine. It was a super emotionally driven scene for Jade, and she had to make an incredibly tough decision. But for the viewer, we just saw her kill someone. There was no emotional baggage for the viewer in that scene because we were given no context as to why that scene was so important. We saw one meaningful scene between Jade and Valentine, and then boom, Valentine was evil for the rest of the time he was in the series. There is no background as to why this was hard on Jade, and so the scene did not hit where it was supposed to. There was context given as to why that was such a tough decision for Jade, but it was revealed after his death. And at that point, the death scene is long gone, and there's no longer any emotional attachment to Valentine or the scene itself. This information was incredibly relevant information that could have been given to us before the death scene so that it had more impact. And then after Valentine dies, Jade cries for a bit, and then she's fine. She has one more breakdown, but then she goes right back to her normal self. She moved on within a few minutes. Just like you had said, wasn't Valentine like your mentor, like gave you a home? But you got over it in one night and never came back to it for the rest of the series. Another thing I found odd about Jade is how fast she was willing to be accepted into the Bone Reavers. When Kit said she didn't want to tell her that she may be the one thing she sought to destroy, I honestly agreed with her. Imagine the type of emotions and conflicting feelings that must be going through your head if you are actually what killed your parents. And when Scorpio reveals who Jade truly is, Jade just accepts it? Like, what? She's hesitant a little at the beginning, but ends up fully trusting Scorpio. Okay, so imagine this. When you were young, you vividly remember your parents being taken away or killed by the Bone Reavers. And as you get older, there is this growing resentment towards that group, obviously. And then finally, you get to interact with the group and talk to the leader. And oh, turns out you're actually a part of it, and everyone you grew up with just like lied to you. Wouldn't you be a little more hesitant and take more time to process what you just heard? It kills me that Jade had so much potential to be a really good character, but the writers just didn't care to develop what happens before and after her important moments. Let me tell you about a scene that actually works and how it presents an incredibly emotional situation and how the character is actually affected after. and that is Kit's scene as they are leaving the Trolls Mountain. In many instances since the beginning of the series, we know that Kit has been wanting to know why her father left her and her family, asking Borman about how their last adventure went, and going on this journey to find Eric while also hoping to learn more about her dad. So when Kit enters the treasure room and obtains Madmartigan's sword and hears his voice as if he's just behind the door, you get a sense of relief that Kit will finally have the answers she was looking for. And we get to feel that excitement of seeing a character we really enjoyed seeing when we watched the movie. But Kit is unfortunately quickly taken away by Elora and Jade to leave the Trolls' lair. She fights with them, yelling at them to let her go so she could finally see her dad. And as she leaves the treasure room and reaches the floor of the lair, she is in shock, disappointment, and anger, all over the fact that she could not see him. And this becomes a yelling fight with Elora, where Kit reveals how jealous she was of Elora because Kit's dad left her for her. This was a good use of post-climax information because 1, it happened right after Kit not being allowed to see her dad, and 2, it added to what we already knew about Kit. We knew since the beginning that Kit wanted to learn about her dad because she felt betrayed and obviously missed him. And now we are given information on top of that, and that is also because she wants to understand why he chose Elora over his own daughter. This wasn't an introduction to completely new information, this was the writers explaining why Kit was so cold with Elora throughout the past episodes. This makes the original scene so much more impactful, and you get to see a vulnerable side to Kit that also many people can relate to.
You're right, dirty. About time.
Now I'm going to talk to you about Kit and Jade. Before you come at me in the comments, I want to preface this by saying that I absolutely love Kit and Jade. Their relationship was one of the main reasons why I watched the show, especially because I love seeing the representation women barely get in this type of media. And as a queer person myself, it does make me happy to see this type of relationship portrayed in a Disney series where they are not defined by their sexuality. They aren't just gay characters, they are characters that are gay. And that is what we need more in this day and age. So the complaints I have about the writing of their relationship are solely based on general relationship dynamics. What I'm about to say can be a critique of any type of relationship. So let's begin. The first episode is great. You can see that there is a strong connection between Kit and Jade and they seem to be really close. And then near the end, you get the confirmation that they are more than friends in the form of a kiss. If I had not been spoiled about that scene prior, I totally would have started screaming at the fact they literally just did that in like a Disney show. So as the series goes on, you expect them to be super close. And you get that with Kit slightly comforting Jade and that little moment Jade had when Kit was asleep. And then for like the next 2 episodes, nothing happens between them. They barely get any dialogue that is just between them, and Kit even says that Jade is her friend. Like, the story moves on as if the kiss just did not happen. And the scene when they are at the castle and Borman says that they know they like each other.
Okay, you two have totally got the hots for each other.
They act like he has no idea what he's talking about and try to deny what he said. But it's not like Jade and Kit were trying to suppress their emotions for each other or even hide it from everyone else. They had been open about their closeness and they even kissed, for crying out loud. If they hadn't kissed in the first episode, the scene with Borman and all their little subtle actions towards each other would have made total sense. A good, steady friends to lovers. But they threw in that kiss at the beginning and threw away any steady development out the window. And also back in the scene when Kit was easily able to call Jade her friend, and then in the Wildwood hesitated with Elora.
Jade is my... We're friends.
Like, come on girl, pick a side. After the scene with Borman and later on after the Wildwood, they definitely became a lot closer and their relationship became more steady. But I still cannot get over that weird phase between episode 1 and episode 4. There are also a lot of other things I could talk about in their relationship, and if someone really wanted me to, I'd do it. But for right now, I'm just focusing on my main complaint. Now I'm going to do a little speed run of things that I found weird or odd in the show. First off was Elora's quote in the castle.
I was born here.
Like, no bitch, come on. You being born there and then taken directly out of the castle has no effect on whether or not you know the layout. The second was the fight between Valentine and Jade. There was this big buildup of Jade putting her mask on, and the mask was immediately thrown off her head. Third was that Kit did not seem to be sad in any way that the Shattered Sea ended. I know that she was trying to comfort Elora, but it felt weird that Elora was more sad than Kit when Eric is Kit's brother. Fourth is Kit's Kit's mood swings. This may just be because it was part of her undeveloped character, but Kit would go from 0 to 100 so many times to the point where it did feel forced. Eventually these moments stopped, but when they were happening it just felt super out of place. And fifth, when the group is getting ready to go into the Trolls Mountain and Jade is the one to say they need to save Willow, didn't you just have like a huge moment with Kit and now you're just worried about Willow? Scorpia ended up being the one to say that they needed to save Kit. Okay, that is all I have to say. There are a lot more things I could talk about, but I did not want to bite off more than I could chew, especially since this is my first video. If you want to share any of your own opinions or point of views, please comment down below. I want to hear your guys' thoughts. And I will catch you later. Bye bye.